know about this week's news, comments, questions, you can email us 1a@wamu.org. All right, let's start with some of the big immigration news of the week that I mentioned at the top here. The Trump administration put out a new order saying people who came to the United States legally as refugees, Amanda Becker, could be detained if they don't obtain a green card within a year. What's this all about?
Right.
Yeah, so this was filed as part of an ongoing lawsuit, and it's part of a broader push to just limit the number of refugees in the United States. So to put it in context, last year 38,000 refugees were resettled here, and now they are aiming for a ceiling of 7,500, and that's limited mainly to white South Africans. So this is part of a broader push, and it's important to look at it in that context. Now, the other problem with this is that, so first of all, you cannot even apply for a green card or permanent legal status until you've been here for a year. There are backlogs, and they've also paused the processing of a lot of these cases from 75 countries, and that includes a lot of people who are here under refugee status. So they're essentially giving refugees who are already here no way to pursue permanent legal status, and then telling them they can be detained indefinitely and essentially kicked out of the
Because
country.
even if they start the process for a green card, the chances of them getting it in the real world are so low.
Yes.
They're subject to detention and deportation just because they're...
And some of them cannot even start it, depending on what country they're from. And depending on what country they're from, some of them have been paused, so their cases are not moving forward.
Well, also this week, DHS launched a campaign to find voter fraud among immigrants and naturalized U.S. citizens. Arthur, what's the basis for this new push? What exactly are they looking for in the Trump administration?
Well, we know the basis is that Donald Trump wants to call elections rigged, and they're doing badly in polls, and it's the start of a pretext for either undermining confidence in the upcoming midterm elections, which could be terrible for Republicans and Trump, or an effort to interfere somehow in that election using the pretext of a past example of immigrant voter fraud in order to somehow, perhaps deploy ICE near polling sites or do something else. We don't know yet, but I believe that that's the reason for this rather than obviously any example of systemic immigrant voter fraud, which does not exist.
Jeff Mason, the DHS's own numbers have found that inappropriate voting by undocumented immigrants or any immigrants is exceedingly rare. I mean, they found this time after time after time. It is not a thing that swings elections. But the Trump administration, from the president himself, Mike Johnson, are all on board with this push. And now it's also targeting naturalized American citizens. They have a right to vote.
They absolutely have a right to vote. But to your broader point, yes, the evidence for widespread fraud from non-legal citizens in the United States is minimal, but that doesn't fit with President Trump's narrative, and it doesn't fit with his overall push of having a scapegoat, which in this case is immigrants and undocumented people.
What's the American citizen part of this, though? Because they have a right to vote, so why are they part of this illegal voting dragnet?
I don't have a good answer for that. It's...
Now, one thing I read, in case they may have voted illegally before they were naturalized, right? So they're all on notice. They're going to have their records scoured. Yeah. Right, Amanda? Yeah.
Yeah, it's also part of a broader push to denaturalize immigrants. I mean, they're trying to undo birthright citizenship, and they're also trying to denaturalize citizens from places that they don't see as, preferential to come to this country.
At the same time, Republicans in Congress and with Trump's backing are making a furious push to get the SAVE Act into law, a new version of that proposal with national voter ID. And I asked Speaker Mike Johnson, are you saying that if we don't pass this, we're not going to be able to trust the midterms? And he said, no, I'm not saying that, which I thought was sort of conciliatory for him on this topic. But there's a whole Republican Party push raising concerns about fake voter fraud in the midterm election.
And to just build on that briefly, that is the underlying point, I think. It's to build distrust in elections, and you do that with multiple ways, by talking about immigrants voting when they're not allowed to, by casting doubt on mail-in voting, which in my home state of Colorado, for example, is the norm. It's the standard, and it does really, really well for that state.
Mike Johnson himself has spread disinformation about how votes are counted, and that if a voting tally changes over the course of the night, that must be fraud. That's false.
It is false. and it's that broad effort to just undermine or to increase concern and undermine confidence in elections that they're working on.
Now, you wouldn't know it from all of these memos and orders and actions that are coming out of the Department of Homeland Security, but DHS is technically still in a shutdown right now. It has been for a week now. That's because Democrats and Republicans on the Hill are in a stalemate over reforms to ICE. Amanda Becker, why has this shutdown had such a small apparent impact on immigration operations? It doesn't seem like there's that much different.
Yeah, so let's think back to the One Big Beautiful Bill last year. That had extensive funding in it for DHS and Customs and Border Patrol. And so it's important to think here when we're looking at the impacts of the shutdown, what the political motivations are in terms of allowing some parts to continue as normal and others not. There was a memo this week that FEMA, for example, shouldn't be traveling to disaster zones without getting prior approval. We might start to see disruptions in the TSA, you know, when people are going to the airports. Those are things to increase political pressure from voters on ending the shutdown, while they're able to use this other big, beautiful bill funding to continue the immigration enforcement that they want.
Arthur, you've been reporting on this on the Hill.
With regard to FEMA, I've heard from a source that they've got about $9 billion in funding for disaster response, and that's probably enough for 2 or 3 month-long disaster responses. So it's, again, another reason Democrats aren't feeling much pressure to buckle and vote for DHS funding.
So not go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say, some of the impacts are things that we don't see. And that is that the TSA workers and others affected by this DHS shutdown are not getting paid.
Yeah, okay, so big effect on them. They have to work because they're essential. They're not necessary. It's not fair to say there's no impact.
Correct.
But then you also have to ask the question, Democrats who have sensed a major moment with ICE and are chasing reforms to ICE after the abuses in Minneapolis have chosen this moment of a DHS shutdown to push for ICE reforms. Why are Democrats waging it in a place that's just so hard to notice? They picked a fight for a government shutdown over a major issue in America, and it's really hard to notice that the shutdown's going on, Arthur.
Well, Democratic voters want their party to do whatever it can to fight back, resist the Trump administration. And this happens to be one of the only places where Democrats in Congress have any leverage, because Republicans control both the House and the Senate, but in the Senate they don't have the supermajority you need to override filibuster. So Democrats are using the filibuster, and they learned from the fall government shutdown that they can win the messaging war by fighting against government funding.
Well, DHS said last week that it was ending the ICE crackdown in Minnesota, and we're following the aftermath there in Minneapolis. This is what Minnesota Public Radio's Matt Sepik told us on the show last week.
Arrests are still happening. Things may not be as overt as they were a few weeks ago. The fear remains. It's not easing up. People are worried about themselves being arrested and friends and relatives.
So on the streets in Minneapolis, no sense really of the end to the surge, as the government says. Mayors in some U.S. cities have made moves this week to ensure that what happened in Minneapolis and the Twin Cities doesn't happen to them. Amanda, what's going on in places like L.A., New York, Chicago?
Yeah, in Boston, Oakland, Seattle, there have been executive orders from mayors in these big blue cities that seek to kind of put some parameters on where ICE and other immigration enforcement agents can operate. So they're trying to restrict them from city property, like parks. They're asking their local police forces to monitor the activities of federal agents. So taking it a step farther, they're just not cooperating, but kind of keeping an eye on them. And I would also note that, you know, this isn't just blue cities. I mean, they're the ones who have gone the farthest. I spend a lot of time in Springfield, Ohio, small Republican city. They also passed a resolution recently, you know, seeking to set some parameters for engagement.
Meanwhile, while we're talking about DHS, as we head to a break here, Tricia McLaughlin, spokesperson for Secretary Kristi Noem, on her way out. She has a long record of false statements as the spokesperson there. Jeff Mason, what do we know about Tricia McLaughlin and her career?
Well, we know
At
that
DHS.
At DHS, she she was the primary sort of face for this policy at the level that is not the cabinet level. And yeah, she spread misinformation, and she also really promoted this policy, including suggesting that at least one of the victims in Minnesota was a domestic terrorist.
Her departure shows that they're reeling from Minnesota still.
We got this comment from Neil. If I were a legal or illegal refugee contacting the current U.S. government would seem to be a significant risk of incarceration, I would not give them my home address. Much more on the roundup coming up. Jeff Mason is here, Arthur Delaney, and Amanda Becker from the 19th. More on immigration, more from TV and big tech, and as always, the news quiz. It's all coming up here on the roundup. I'm Todd Zwillick. This is 1A.
If I wouldn't come in the United States now. Nobody says that. Joe, I'm afraid we're gonna leave you a shit country when we die.
And well,
This generation.
why are we backing up?
We're not backing up, Joey. I'm trying to fix my suit, so I just put the car on park so I could attempt to do that. Not cooperating, Joe.
Well, make sure you take the car out of the park before we go.
Joe,
Yep.
when I get home, I'm gonna fix your bed, and but you know what, Joe?
What, Daddy?
I have no idea how much I need these for sanctity. Oh, I started my diet.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, yesterday, and I did good. I'm doing intermittent fasting, keto. So in about a few days, I should be dropping a lot of weight.
Guess where I get to go tonight?
Joey, if it's this shitty, I hope you change your mind. But yeah, you're scheduled to go to Jack Beagles.
It's supposed to be totally clear by 5 o'clock.
Yes. Absolutely. Oh man, somebody killed a hawk or an owl.
What are you trying to do?
Fix my shoe, Joey. Yes, I do it when I get to the.
Don't bring your phone in there.
Well, we probably order from the. Since I got you with me, we'll probably go through the drive-through.
Make sure you pack it separately, though.
Yeah. John wants what?
2 country ham biscuits and sweet tea.
And you want what?
5-piece tenders and seasoned fries.
Changing that clock from 5:15 to 5:35, depending on your schedule, really screwed me up, man.
Screwed us up.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I went out and talked to the lady and told her, look, I'm sorry, but I've had the clock set. Camarada,
Ubichi,
coño, me acordé de ti antier. Estaba limpiando la oficina y saqué un estado de comisión que tú me habías mandado en el 22. Digo, coño, Antoñico.
oye, brother, que la semana pasada hablamos. Olvídate de Varadero y Maduro va para Venezuela otra vez.
¿Quién dice?
Rudy, esto, aquí todo es en contra del presidente.
Ah, ¿quién está diciendo que hay que devolver a Maduro? ¿Los demócratas?
Sí, aquí todo va en contra del presidente, brother. Cuando ese hombre vaya a juicio, no hay cargo contra él, no hay nada, no hay prueba y lo tiran para atrás otra vez. Aquí las cortes está malo, eso está malo, Rudy.
Sí. ¿Y qué vamos a hacer, Antonio?
No, nada, seguir esperando, nada, esperar a...
Así que tú
Yo,
no
por ejemplo,
crees
espera-
que se caiga Díaz Canel.
No, caerse solito no, ahí los pobrecitos eso, pero no, los sueños eso de Varadero y Maduro no vuelve a Venezuela, sí, Maduro vuelve a Venezuela.
Bueno,
Eso,
la
fíjate,
que está planeando volver a Venezuela es María Corina y establecer elecciones entre 8 y 10 meses.
Vamos a ver qué pasa en eso, pero yo no tengo yo no tengo fe en el Departamento de Justicia, completamente estoy en contra de ellos, no, eso constantemente, que no, negativo todo.
Mira,
Sí.
si Trump dice que el oxígeno es bueno, se van a mover un cojón de demócratas porque van a tratar de parar de respirar.
No sé, mira, ahora mismo hace 3 días ahí, el tipo ese le dijo que soltaron al Abreu ese, no sé qué cosa.
Sí,
que-
sí.
Entonces llevan meses y meses tratando de partir los cojones. El tipo había una denuncia por fotos, la mujer lo había denunciado, la policía tenía récord de todo eso y después lo soltó. Y aquí sueltan a los criminales, en todos esos estados, según ellos azules, los jurados, eso, sueltan a la gente para la calle.
Sí.
Entonces, las mujeres en bikini, eso está acabando, ¿ves? La vieja esa ahí. Pues entonces, no sé, Rudy, no sé, aquí la esperanza mía la tengo bien pobre ya.
No, si esto se pone peor, va a terminar a tiro limpio.
No, aquí ya no hay quien tire de acá sus carajos,
Que
aquí
no.
no hay nadie de eso. No, ya le cortaron el dinero a muchos departamentos ahí, del departamento de ACE, de la gente que está protegiendo, te está limpiando lo que metió ese hombre aquí fueron millones de indocumentados ilegales. Es lo que está limpiando eso, no está haciendo más nada, y entonces todo el mundo está en contra de eso. Hasta los muchachitos jóvenes el otro día leí ahí y digo, caballero, pues...
Esos son los maestros que los indoctrinan, chico.
Sí, se fueron de colegio, yo creo que 200, 300 niños se fueron de colegio, niños, se fueron.
Sí, ellos
Pero suspendieron,
cuando se
entonces.
ven eso, toda la gente esa tiran los niños para carne de cañón.
Pero eso crea atmósfera, eso crea una política negativa.
Hombre, claro.
Entonces esta gente no sé qué cojones le pasa. Los mismos republicanos, muchos de ellos están tapados, para mí que están tapados, entonces votan en contra del Trump por cualquier mierda.
Yo no sé.
No, Rudy, tú.
Yo no sé.
Yo hablo contigo esto porque tú eres el que más conocimiento tiene de la ley y los estatutos aquí.
No.
Pero
Ese es el problema,
eso
y ahora están, ahora si tú oyes a la estación de radio NPR, todo es negativo de Trump. El problema
yo
es
aquí
que
no, aquí
ellos odian a Trump más que aman al país. Eso es todo. Indocumentado pinga, chico.
Bueno, vamos a ver qué pasa.
Óyeme, Antonio, y de lo que no hablan ellos, si tú eres indocumentado y vas y dices, oye, yo me quiero repatriar, te dan 1000 cañas y te dan un vuelo gratis para casa de coño tu madre.
No se han ido miles, se han ido, han aceptado la oferta esa porque como tienen esperanza, si tú te vas, puedes buscar por un tercer país, tratar de regresar y tener la oportunidad de llenar los papeles si quieres venir. ¿Sí me entiendes? Si tú no, los antecedentes penales, todo está correcto, tú puedes aplicar para la residencia y vamos a estudiar tu caso y es posible que tú regreses. Ahora, si te sacan, no tienes derecho a regresar más nunca.
No.
Pero bueno, no sé, sí, no, se han ido bastante.
Sí, se han ido, sí, se han ido. Y
Sí.
tiene que seguir metiendo eso.
Bueno, vamos a ver qué es lo que pasa. Porque yo te digo a ti que una cosa, aquí en la Florida, pero por lo menos bien al sur, esto está súper tranquilo. Aquí ni creo que nada de eso va. Yo no creo que aquí la gente lo va a permitir.
El gobernador
Ese
de
vacilón y
ustedes,
ese relajo ahí arriba.
el gobernador de ustedes no se va a... God bless you, son.
Thank you, Daddy.
Este de aquí,
Ese no
este
se va,
como
ese
Trump.
no se va, no se pasa con ficha y no se va con bola buena.
No,
Ese es el mejor gobernador.
Él no se va con bolas malas, no, si no le tira un strike, está jodido. Aquí él le tira bola mala y él te hace mierda.
Sí. Y
No, aquí yo creo, en ese sentido el tipo está fuerte con cojones.
Sí.
Ahora yo no sé, allá California está hecho un desastre.
Antonio, hay una cantidad de gente de California y de Nueva York mudándose para la Florida y para Texas.
No, si yo lo oí por la mañana, hasta de los colegios están sacando a los muchachos y se están yendo para lugares, pueblos, para afuera, lugares chiquitos, pequeños de esos, a vivir ahí. Dice que no se puede estar ahí. Este tipo ha echado mierda a California y va a correr más por accidentes.
Sí.
Entonces allá se fueron a Múnich, él y la piña colada, a hablar mierda allí.
No, la piña colada la cagó. ¿Viste la cagada cuando le preguntaron de Taiwán? Se quedó,
No,
pues si tuviera una morrón en la garganta se quedó.
Sí, pero entonces salió otro periodiquito ahí que no,
Oh, don't do that.
ella ganó con
Oh,
eso,
Lord.
porque fue.
You're on the
Vaya,
phone and doing
le
that,
viran la
and
tortilla a la gente.
Sí. Sí.
Rudy, acuérdate lo que te voy a decir. Bueno, tú lo sabes.
Dímelo de
El
todas
partido
formas.
con-
you're really gonna do that
el
when you're on the
partido
phone
con
and
el socialismo siempre por medio de la propaganda ha vencido a todo el mundo.
No es propaganda, Antonio. Si fuera propaganda, es indoctrinación. Y empiezan 20 años atrás. Mira, ¿a quién le cabe en la cabeza? ¿A quién le cabe en la cabeza? Que a mi hijo Tony, sabiendo de dónde vino el padre, y toda esa serie de cosas, sea
Bueno,
izquierdista.
vamos, yo no sé, yo creo que el americano de hoy en día sabe votar. Entonces todo ve que ellos oyen eso y se callan la boca. Sí, estoy de acuerdo contigo. Pero cuando van a las urnas, votan más bien, votan bien.
Eso es el deseo grande.
Esa es la parte.
Esa es la. Vamos a ver.
Esa es la parte. Porque como esta mismo, cuando las elecciones de Trump, pienso, que la Kamala arrollaba las encuestas que yo veía las encuestas y yo dije, caballero, que no tiene chance a nada. Vaya, porque la diferencia en las encuestas eran tan grandes que decía, ¿cómo te va a levantar el muerto este? Bueno, amanece Trump en la presidencia y de calle. Y
ese
de
mismo
calle.
día no hubo que esperar ni cojones para. El problema no es como yo le digo, dime tu política, no me digas que tu política es yo odio a Trump. La mejor pregunta que tú le puedes hacer cuando dices nazi, ven acá, ¿qué quiere decir qué quiere decir nazi? ¿Qué significa? Ellos no saben. Porque es lo que oyen y lo repiten y le pagan. Aquí hay gente que cobran por ir a protestar.
Sí, Rudy, eso se sabe. Entonces tú ves, esta gente están bajo investigación, pero no lo acaban de investigar.
Eso es lo que yo estoy explicando. Eso es lo que ya es un año ya, y yo a la que era secretaria de la fiscal de ustedes, yo la admiraba, pero ahora, bueno, yo no quiero oír más eso, yo lo quiero oír que encanaron a fulano y le metieron $50,000 de multa y 5 años de cárcel. Eso es lo que yo quiero oír, igual que tú.
Claro, Rudy, ahora mismo se han descubierto 400,000 estafas ahí en Minnesota. Yo no he oído todavía que eso está en corte, está bajo investigación.
Porque esto es una federación, Antonio, y el cingado moro porque el tipo es islámico, el fiscal de Minnesota se llama Keith Ellison, y él se benefició de la estafa esa, la campaña de ese benefició de la estafa esa.
Pero según la documentación, eso está ahí. Rudy, yo vi videos de gente que a los niños, los tipos tapados por la cabeza, que llevaban 3 y 4 niños agarrados de la mano.
Rito, déjame responder esta llamada, papi, después te llamo, ¿ok?
Ok, ya, tranquilo. Hablamos.
Buenos días, ¿qué dice la dama de hierro?
La dama de hierro está en su apartamento. Bueno, no es nuevo, pero un apartamento para mí es nuevo.
Para ti es nuevo.
Exactamente.
Y se acomodó ya.
¿Eh?
Sí, yo me comuniqué con Fifi y me dijeron que estabas mudándote.
Sí. Sí, la mudada estuvo, y no te creas, había cantidad de cosas que poner en su lugar y el diablo de la capa. Pero bueno, seguiremos informando. Todavía tengo parte de cosas en la casa, pero cosas que uno puede trasladar sin ayuda de mudancero.
Ajá.
Así
Bueno,
que
¿y te entregaron la cama nueva y toda esa serie de cosas?
Todo eso perfecto. Esa gente hicieron un trabajazo, la armaron con paciencia, muy buen trabajo hicieron. Y nada, ya te digo, armaron todo y un cubano que era candela brava y un puertorriqueño. Muy bueno los dos.
Qué bueno. ¿Y tú cómo te sientes?
Bueno, estoy cansada, fíjate. Dormí aquí anoche, pero estoy cansada. Y tengo que ir a la casa porque allá quedan una serie de cosas. ¿Aló?
¿Y cómo te sientes emocionalmente del movimiento?
Bueno, eso para mí representa cerrar un capítulo de mi vida y es un capítulo que yo difícilmente quiera cerrar.
Ajá.
O sea, que estoy bien dentro de lo que cabe, pero me siento afectada, claro.
Ay, caramba.
Pero bueno, ya tú sabes. Allá va eso. Bueno, quería nada más te saludarte y decirte que aquí ya tienes un lugar donde llegar a verme, porque quedarte no quieres.
Ok, muchísimas gracias. Déjame ver
Bueno.
cómo podemos pasar por allá. Bueno, gracias.
Bueno.
Bye.
Un abrazo para
Hey,
ti.
Joe,
Yeah.
say hello to Tia Lourdes.
Hey, Tia Lourdes.
Hi, Joey. How are you, sweetheart?
Wonderful. I got 4 hours of sleep extra.
Her phone, her thing died. All right, so we're going through the drive-through.
Okay.
Do these people have any thing with fish?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I guess you can fix your shoe.
No, I'm gonna wait until I get to your place because I'm gonna need both hands and some space. Okay, let's see. Let me wear these glasses. Sandwiches.